I'll continue now. So what does this mean for NYANZA about ensuring that Kenyans have jobs that can really grasp the potential of this region to establish their presence here? Then we have Drop Access, a Kenyan innovation, medtech company based out of Nairobi but working in these regions. They have developed a vaccine fridge that can maintain the temperature of vaccines for over 24 hours just using solar panels. We're helping them to enter the Ukrainian market where, if you can believe it or not, the Kenyan innovation is extremely important right now. Another example of a company based out of Poland that wants to train Kenyan talent in AI, and it can do it at a lower cost to Kenyan economy than companies based in Germany, UK, and France. Those are just a few examples of trade between the regions. And as I said, the opportunity is here, but it won't materialize on its own. We must expand trade missions between NYANZA and CEE, ensuring direct business-to-business engagement. We need to move beyond discussions and implement pilot projects in AI, fintech, green energy, and agribusiness, something I'm trying to do very hard, but I need your help with pushing this forward. We must also establish structured city-to-city collaborations between NYANZA and CEE hubs, not only look to those based in Western Europe. This will allow us to strengthen long-term business linkages. And finally, to make this a reality, we need policy support, trade-friendly regulation, and investment incentives. And don't get me wrong, this is not just a request to this region. It's the same request to CEE countries to be more open, more transparent, and more friendly when it comes to establishing business in CEE regions. So this is not just about what could happen. This is about what we must make happen. And NYANZA has everything it needs to be a leading player in this new economic chapter, and the time to act is now. Let's take this vision forward and make it a reality together. I hope you can join me in making that happen. Erokamano, asante sana. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gosia. You're not alone. We are here to support you. You've got the people that you require to drive the agenda. Attractive 5 billion food business. We've heard about green energy. I come from Burn Manufacturing Limited, so I've heard about carbon offsets, areas of interest. Emerald True, that is. Followed lastly by the vaccine fridges, of course, huge potential. And you have people here in the room, I think, that will pick the queue and follow through with these opportunities that you've shared with us today. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, panelists and fellow contributors here, without much ado, we'll invite our honorable guest at this tent, Honorable C.S. Alice Wahome, to give us the keynote speech on affordable housing, lessons learned from the affordable housing program. Of course, you've got the latitude to inspire us with the great insights that you have. Thank you.
Yani hata hakuna makofi ya CS. What's wrong with you guys? Good morning.
Makofi tena.
Yes. I
Thank you.
will stand on protocols already established and say good morning to everybody. I think we are here on a very key, very important topic in relation to the development and investment in this region, the NYANZA region. For me, it's quite a great pleasure to be here. Thank you very much, my co-panelists and the moderator. And allow me to just go straight to the written speech. It's obviously a very good morning in terms of the weather, and I hope everybody is enjoying. And I mean, normally Kisumu is hot, but today it appears to be somewhere there in between. It is therefore a great pleasure and delight for me to be here today at this important conference where we gather together to discuss progressive issues that are critical to the growth and prosperity of the Lake Region Economic Bloc. My speech is combined between two state departments, the State Department for Public Works and Housing and Urban Development. I tasked them to do together, so there will be some information, some discussion from both state departments. The NYANZA Investment and Development Conference could not have come at a more opportune time. As Kenyans continue to demand transparency, efficiency, and accountability in governance and economic management, this forum provides a timely platform for robust discussions on how we can accelerate development and create lasting impact for the people of this region and outside or beyond. I'm particularly pleased by the theme of this year's conference, NYANZA Rising Towards Economic Transformation for Socio-Economic Growth and Development. This theme is a rallying call for collective action, innovation, strategic partnerships to unlock the full economic potential of this region. It speaks to the urgent for optics, that's why I've removed them. It speaks to the urgent need for sustainable investment in key sectors such as infrastructure, agriculture, manufacturing, trade, and housing, sectors that hold the key to creating jobs, improving livelihoods, and enhancing the region's overall competitiveness. Honorable guests, the Ministry of Lands, Public Works, Housing, and Urban Development fully supports this goal. As we are at the forefront of driving infrastructure development, affordable housing, and urban transformation, key enablers for economic growth, the ministry remains steadfast in its commitment to the bottom-up economic transformation agenda under the visionary leadership of His Excellency the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. Our mission extends beyond merely constructing houses. We are building communities, creating employment opportunities, and establishing the foundation of a prosperous future for all Kenyans. Honorable guests or distinguished guests, I wish to state that housing demand in our country is immense. It's huge, with an annual requirement of 250,000 units against a current supply of 50,000 units. And the 50,000 is currently being developed or built, constructed by private developers. This significant gap underscores the importance of innovative partnerships and collaborative efforts such as those we are exploring today. Our affordable housing program, we call it in short AFP, has already made significant strides in NYANZA region, with several projects either completed or underway. In Kisumu County, for example, we are implementing the Lumumba AFP project with 2,348 units, which will deliver quality homes to residents while creating employment opportunities for local youth and businesses. We have several ongoing projects across the region, and these include the following. Mabera AFP with 60 units, which is now currently starting at 97% by way of status of completion. Then we have Kanyakwa, phase 1, with 500 units, Rongo AFP delivering 191 units, Kehancha AFP 264 units, Arego Songa comprising 882 units. We go to Ogembo, we have 245 units, Nyaribari, Masaba, we have AFP that's obviously outside this Kisumu County, with 249 units, and then Nyanchwa AFP with 233 units. I'm also pleased to announce that we have recently advertised several new projects, including Upper Kanyakwal, Phase 2. I have been there and I know what is going on there. In Kisumu East, which will deliver 400 housing units. Kisumu OMW camp in Kisumu West, set to provide 400 additional housing units, and then Gingo AFP in Suba East, Homa Bay, which will deliver 400 housing units. We have made significant progress in this regard, and by way of institutional housing development, we have then embraced multiple hostels for universities, TVETs, KMTCs across the region, and we have designed, advertised for construction, demonstrating our commitment to supporting educational infrastructure. Despite the progress we've made, there remain significant barriers to investment, some of which we have encountered through affordable housing program. To achieve meaningful economic transformation, therefore, we must tackle these challenges head on. One of the biggest challenges is access to serviced land, compounded by high cost of land, lengthy land registration processes, you know that. Without readily available land, therefore, investments in housing, infrastructure, and industrial projects become costly and difficult to execute. That answers the question, why are we using public land? The houses are going to the Kenyan public, and therefore for us to address the issue of cost, pricing, so that we have affordable housing, then we have seen it necessary, working with Kenyans, to use what we'll have as an asset, land. However, all is not lost. Initiatives such as Ardhi Sasa is a revolutionary digital land management system that aims to enhance transparency and efficiency and accessibility in land administration. By streamlining land registration, titling, and verification processes, we have witnessed elimination of bureaucratic delays, making land acquisition and investment easier and more secure, and keeping away human interaction that many times attract inducements and corruption discussions. We must also, or practices, we must also work towards establishing a robust land banking process. Dear guests, another major barrier is low adoption of technology in the construction sector. There exists highly innovative building technologies that reduce construction time and cost, yet their uptake remains low and slow. Embracing modern construction methods, including prefabrication and alternative building materials, can significantly cut costs and fast-track development. Financial capability remains a challenge as another barrier, as public resources are heavily skewed towards current expenditure rather than development. The affordable housing program is a step in the right direction, as it provides a dedicated fund defined by law, a fund by Kenyans and for Kenyans, ensuring that investments in housing and urban development continue without disruption. So our affordable housing, together with the markets that we are doing, and we expect that within the next 2 years to 3 years, we will have completed at least 400 markets countrywide. Poor coverage of trunk infrastructure is another deterrent to investment. Cities today are competing for investors including development finance, yet our road, water, sewage coverage remains inadequate. This makes investing in urban areas extremely expensive, as investors must provide site-specific infrastructure to make projects viable. And therefore, to attract investment, we must prioritize towards comprehensive urban infrastructure development. The cost of finance, therefore, is a critical factor. We have institutions like KMRC that have come in to fill or, to seal the gaps that we know we have experienced as a country by way of financing. Another key enabler is favorable policies and registration, and of course, the current government is quite keen on fast-tracking any registration that will be an enabler towards economic development. My ministry, of course, is fast-tracking several of those, and therefore we need to create pathways for investors to operate efficiently, generate resources, and contribute towards national growth. Finally, the approval processes and development permissions still remain a serious block or bottleneck. Many of these processes are still manual, lengthy, and prone to corruption. We must shift towards digitalized, transparent, and efficient approval mechanisms to remove bureaucratic inefficiencies and encourage both local and international investors to engage in large-scale development projects. Despite these challenges in the built-in environment, my ministry has made tremendous progress in streamlining the operations in the sector and has employed a number of strategies which include construction research, and this is carried out based on the National Construction Research Agenda aimed at addressing key challenges in the construction industry. The findings and outcomes of these studies are disseminated to the industry stakeholders through a biennial International Construction Research Center and exhibition, and through an annual construction research and information dissemination forums. The National Building Code 2024 has already been enacted or promulgated, and its implementation is effective from 1st of March 2025. My ministry is currently carrying out the stakeholder sensitization for the code. Additionally, my ministry conducts continuous professional development training to keep contractors informed of their expectations or Kenyans' expectations within that arena. As part of these enhanced strategies to ensure quality in the construction industry, we have made efforts, concerted efforts in project registration, and this forms the basis of quality assurance activities to ensure compliance in respect to engagement of professionals, adherence to legal requirements, and ethics. And therefore, quality works is a healthy and safe working environment that we expect all of us to achieve. In furtherance of quality assurance, therefore, we have further acquired material testing mobile laboratories, which we launched last year, and this is a key method in complementing quality assurance activities in the industry. We have also continued to accredit construction workers and construction site supervisors. That is an ongoing exercise. And in addition, deliberate effort has been made in carrying out continuous technical programs for workers to ensure that they are up to date with advancement, including prior knowledge. As we work to address these bottlenecks, and create more investors or investor-friendly environment, I wish to emphasize that Nyanza is a region of great potential and must take full advantage of its competitive strength. The government's role is to enable and facilitate investment, but it is the private sector and entrepreneurs, business people, and development partners who will drive the economic growth that we are looking for, and therefore opportunity is available for us as investors. One of the most significant assets in this region is Lake Victoria, which presents vast opportunities in the blue economy. With strategic investment in fishing, aquaculture, water transport, we can unlock immense economic benefits and create employment and boost food security, touching up to the grassroots where mama fish and baba fish or kijana fish are doing their entrepreneur business. I wish to note that tourism remains an underutilized gold mine in this region. Therefore, we are looking at breathtaking lakefront destinations, and we could take advantage of wildlife sanctuaries, historical and cultural heritage sites. Of course, by investing in infrastructure, hospitality, and marketing strategies, we can position the region as a premier tourism destination, generating jobs and revenue to the communities. At that juncture, I want to really commend the investors of this particular destination, this venue. I do not know who they are, but when I was driving down off the tarmac, I started wondering and seeing the reasoning and maybe the possible attraction why the organizers brought us here, so that we can also experience these quiet, peaceful hotel facilities. Actually, for me, it's first class, and therefore, congrats to the investors. Improving air and water transport is critical for unlocking investment opportunities. Efficient connectivity through airports, water transport system, and well-developed roads will facilitate trade boost and boost tourism and attract investors. I know it's been lengthy. Therefore, as I conclude, I wish to reiterate that my ministry is fully committed to supporting the noble initiative of looking at Nyanza as a rising star, new opportunity in the region. We recognize immense potential within the region economic bloc, and we stand ready to collaborate and ensure that we deal with the implementing strategic, we look at implementing strategic interventions, addressing the challenges that I have spoken to, and therefore creating enabling environment. It is only through strong partnership, innovations, and commitment that we can fully unlock Nyanza's potential and contribute meaningfully to Kenya's broader national development agenda, and especially now that even the political climate in this region is extremely favorable, and we must, as investors, take advantage of that under the broad-based government of the Republic of Kenya. Thank you very much. Enjoy the remaining days of the workshops and the deliberations. And don't forget, there is fish in Kisumu. And when you look around, I think it is a very good place to call home. Asanteni sana.
Makofi. Yes, so you've heard, and you've had it firsthand from Horn CS, the challenges. Gossi, I told you you're not alone. Huh? You've heard even of the opportunities. Low adoption of technology. In the CEE, there's quite a big advancement in technologies in those areas. We heard about financial ability. They're great financiers, and I told you the solutions are here. The owners that should be able to drive that. Now, in the greater public, we've also had access and cost of land. Now, you as a mwananchi, how can you facilitate such? Are you the barrier? Internal interrogation. Why can't we promote such a great thing? You've had over 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 houses touching across the entire lake region without any discrimination. Why won't you bring your support and rally behind and build this for and on behalf of the government and on your own behalf? So, a period of introspection and the support we give to such initiatives that are being driven by His Excellency the President. Thank you very much. On CS. Thank you. So now we call upon the second presenter, Mr. Reginald Okumu, from Commissioner, National Lands Commission. Over to you, Reginald. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our moderator, our keynote speaker, Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Alice Wahome, my co-speaker, Gosia. I am really delighted to be here this morning to speak to all of you, delegates, investors. First, good morning to all of you. Good morning. Thank you. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to speak to you this morning, to walk with you through this topic of accessing land for investment in NYANZA region. In the presentation, I will attempt to walk you through to answer 3 questions. Our keynote speaker has talked about the opportunities and what is happening within the region. And also the first speaker has talked about the opportunities that are available to all those who venture into to invest. All these investments must take place in land. My presentation, therefore, is to try and answer 3 questions. Is there land in NYANZA? Because as NYANZA is welcoming you to invest, the first question you must ask yourself, then where do you place this investment? The second question, if the land is available, how do you access it? And the third one would be the challenges that you are likely to face. They've been highlighted here by our keynote speaker, our Cabinet Secretary. And what are the solutions for it? So with that, I'll try and organize this presentation in that format. Take you quickly through the introduction. I'll talk about National Land Commission and I'll focus on the functions as it will enable you to deal with navigate through the land issues. Then I'll talk about land in Kenya generally, just for you to understand the landscape as it is. Then the marketplace talk about what land is, the myths, and the stories you hear about land in in Kenya. I'll talk briefly about NYANZA region. I know, having been here for a while, I don't necessarily have to impress you on what opportunities and why NYANZA is such a good climate investment. But in that place, I'll try to answer the question whether there's actually land in NYANZA. Then I will talk about the barriers that you're likely to face. And I'll give 3 case studies, very briefly. 2 hits and 1 huge miss. Those who did it right, and the one who didn't do it right. And what are the consequences? Then I will finish by sharing with you some key takeaways. Everything we do, all the talk you've heard about the investments, must take place in land. Where we live, work, and play, everything happens on land. We are standing on land, sitting on land. Every human activity you think about happens on land. And you may be thinking, oh, what about the virtual spaces? That's true, but the servers are on land somewhere. So everything that we think as human beings happen on land. And land has a very broad definition. Land is the surface, as we see or we step on or we're standing on or we walk on. What is below it, all the way to the core. What is above it, all the way to the high heavens. And includes water bodies and all our natural resources. So anything you can think of is land. The space we're talking about is all land. So let us interact with our commission first. As you think, marinate around those, what land is all about. NLC has four functions. I can divide them into 4 parts. One is what I would call an executive function, things that we actually do as NLC. And this includes administration of land, where we allocate land, public land to private individuals, or we reserve land for public institutions to carry out their functions. We process requests for consents to lease or consents to transfer. We also manage public land. Once that process of registration has taken place, alienation of land, then we do ensure there's compliance in collaboration with the national government and the counties. The process of allocation of land is primarily a conversion of public land to private or community land. The other key function that we do is now the reverse, where we're able to convert what is either community land or private land back to public land, and this is through compulsory acquisition. We do this on behalf of national government and counties. The other key function I'll talk about, they fall under the category of advisory functions. And here we're able to do certain recommendations, do studies and we make recommendations. And one of those ones is last year. So we have made our recommendations that needs to be made, the changes to be made to our national land policy. The other one is we carry out some oversight functions, and here largely is to do with planning issues. So county governments are required to plan their counties, and NLC ensures that we're able to monitor to ensure that it's done correctly. And the last one is our quasi-judicial and investigative function. Here we had a function on review of grants. It did expire. We are hoping Parliament will be able to extend it, but also we carry out investigations into historical land injustices, and we make recommendations on restitution or any other recommendation. And in this quasi-judicial function, the example I would like to give is a court-referred dispute that was between Makueni County, Taita Taveta, and Kwale. They are disputing over 2 key towns. Makueni and Taita Taveta were feuding over Mtito Andei, and Taita Taveta and Kwale were feuding over Makinon town. This matter was referred to us, and as a commission we were able to attend to it, and we made a recommendation to the court, and the court upheld that. That is the decision that you see there highlighted. Normally never listed as an institution, but these are Kenyans. In Kenya, the people are sovereign. And in Kenya, land is owned by the people. Any transaction that you do on land, whether it's on private, on public, or community, you must involve Kenyans. And this is directly so. You must involve them directly. As one of the case studies I'll highlight is a case of lack of involvement of Kenyans. So in this case, I would urge all investors who are here, you need to know your land category. Are you trying to put an investment on public land? Is it on private land, or is it on community land? As these interactions will amount to something. And as you work on these interactions, these are some of the common myths that you'll hear about land in Kenya. Unoccupied land is idle and available. As you're coming to Kisumu, I'm assuming that if most of you came, either by plane or you drove or came by train, you saw huge chunks of land, and they all appeared empty. Don't get into the myth that that land is available. Dig deeper and verify tenure. Just because there's no one on the land, I mean it is empty and available. The second one is that a title deed and a certificate of lease guarantees tenure. For a long time we believed this, that all you need to do was to waive a certificate of title or certificate of lease to say that this land belongs to me. In this era of fake or fraudulent titles, that can no longer be the case. Actually, the true position is when the authenticity of the title is questioned, then you, the holder of that title, must prove how you got it. The third one is that when you have land, you can do whatever you want to do with it. Nothing can be further from the truth. Land use is regulated by the state, and you must comply with those regulations or conditions that are attached to the land. The fourth one, public land is government land. Public land is not government land. Public land belongs to the people of Kenya, either at the national level or at the county level. And therefore, for you to access public land, it cannot be given to you arbitrarily. You must be able to follow a certain process to acquire this public land. And also you need to know there's a category of land that is actually ring-fenced from allocation. For instance, we cannot allocate Lake Victoria. So there are certain kinds of land that are ring-fenced. When you want to put investment in a land, check whether it is one of those that actually the law prohibits them from being allocated. The last one is on the cost of land, and our Cabinet Secretary has alluded to this. The land is expensive. Kenya operates on a willing seller, willing buyer basis, so we operate on a market. And here I would say it's the information you have and the negotiations you're able to carry out to get you to where you need to go. So what about land in Nyanza? Nyanza measures about 16,600 square kilometers, and that includes 4,100 square kilometers of Lake Victoria. So is there land in Nyanza? Is there land in Nyanza? Is there land in Nyanza? 16,000 square kilometers of land is not small. So there is land in Nyanza, plenty of it. So the question of whether there's land in Nyanza is not one that we need to debate. You have plenty, and in different, across different ecosystems. So how do you access this land that is available in Nyanza? Maybe before I just do that, I need to point out that in Nyanza you have all the three categories of land. You have public land, you have private land, and you have community land. Lake Victoria alone occupies about 25% of the land in Nyanza. So in this region, public land is big, maybe about 30 or 35%. The next category of land that is big is private land, given that this area underwent a lot of adjudication. So a lot of the land that you have here is private land. Although we say it is ancestral, but it was adjudicated, people are holding freehold titles. And the list is community land. I think there could be very few. I don't think Waziri you can do PPPs. That is essentially a joint venture, basically with government. I wouldn't recommend that one, but it's available. So for those four strategies, you can either lease, buy, carry out joint ventures, or do a PPP with government. And these are the likely barriers you'll face. They were alluded to by our keynote speaker. One, there are land tenure issues. As I mentioned, this area went a lot through adjudication. And a lot of the people who, by the time the adjudication started and the time it ended, a lot had changed. So you'll face a lot of succession issues. Maybe people staying on the land today are third generation. So succession has not been done. It's not clear whether the land can, there's a lot of confusion between whether land is community, whether it is public, and whether it is private. So that are the things you need to navigate through. The other one is land fragmentation. A lot of subdivisions, some of them are formal, some of them are informal. You can go to the survey office, get a map, and see a whole block of land. But on the land itself, they're actually very small pieces. Some would actually be formally subdivided, but some will not. One of the areas where you would experience this a lot within the region is areas of Kisii and Nyamira. And we did a study on these areas. The other one is information gaps. Asymmetry between different players, whether government institutions or public sector or private sector, in terms of land about land itself. You are likely to face bureaucratic delays. By the time you start the process of acquisition of land, all the registration can take you very long, frustrating years. Community resistance, either sometimes mobilized through NGOs or through human rights groups, and communities can actually resist. We've seen this in some places. Environmental concerns, particularly if your project appears to have challenges with the environment, and of course, disputes, just disagreements either between the parties or not land is. There are a number of solutions are proposed there, but the key thing is not exactly what I put on the slides. It's the mindset that I would like you to have when dealing with these challenges. As investors, sometimes you come and say, there are too many disputes on this land, you want to walk away. But the mindset I would like you to have is that challenge is actually your opportunity. That challenge is your opportunity. Because the biggest risk you'll take in not doing this investment because of the challenges and the barriers you've seen is that you never took it. As Melody Hobson says, the biggest risk of all is not taking one. Let us look at the case studies. Let us start with the hits. These ones who follow process. And a good example is here in the region, and this is Homa Bay County. Anyone from CPF? CPF? Anyone from CPF? Homa Bay County? Anyone? Homa Bay? Okay. Maybe they'll be familiar with this one. This one an arrangement between CPF, a pension fund, and Homa Bay County, where they negotiated a lease for the construction of the Homa Bay County headquarters. And this followed the required process. And as a commission, we were called upon to process the consent to lease for the county government of Homa Bay to be able to conclude this exercise. And from that photograph there, you can be able to see a very happy Governor, Her Excellency Gladys Wanga, Dr. Osea Kili, very elated, and our chairman, Gasho Motachi, handing over the consent for this project to proceed. And this is what Governor Wang had to say. This achievement represents a significant landmark for us as a county. We are grateful to the Commission for expediting the process. So it is possible to actually have, if you tick your boxes, to get this done. The other example is not within the region, but it's in one of the counties that neighbors. This is Narok County in Transmara. This is between two public institutions. One had land, excess land, and the other one needed land to undertake a very important project. And they followed the process, and through a request, NLC was able to grant consent to transfer for Utali College, land to Utali College to be able to put up a college in Transmara. And again, in that photograph, you can see as a commission there. I'm somewhere in between there, together with the PS Ulultua from tourism and the board of Utali and are members of the board from the school in Transmara. And then there's a huge miss. And this is in Marsabit. It's called the Turkana Wind Power Project, but actually the land is in Marsabit. The project is on 150,000 acres. They've constructed 365 turbines with a total capacity of 310 megawatts. The community, basically the professionals in the community, went to court And they claimed that the land was not properly acquired, there was no consultation, and they were not compensated. And the court in May of 2023 nullified the title that was given to the Turkana Wind Power and asked the authorities to regularize the process. That was the headline. Turkana Wind Power loses land to community. And the journalist, Gerald Ndai, this is what he said. Was there like a small thorn in the flesh for the Turkana Wind Power project in Longiani, Marsabit County, has morphed into a full-blown crisis whose shillings 80 billion worth of investments is in limbo. If we don't follow process, that's where we are likely to be. So what are our takeaways from this issue of land? What are our key takeaways? There are multiple pathways to accessing land here in Nyanza. You do not have to stick to only one way. There are multiple ways in which you can. Challenges exist. Challenges exist. Challenges exist. But as investors, you can navigate them. I would like you to consider being guided by this request that your investment must be legal, permissible. You must follow the law to ensure that you get the legal permits. It must be socially acceptable. You need to get the social license. It's not enough to say that the county government has approved, or national government has approved, or NEMA has approved, if the people have not approved. If the people have not approved, then you're likely to suffer what happened to Lake Turkana Wind Power. It must be environmentally sound. We've seen demonstrations happening around the coast and in Kitui over the coal project and the nuclear one. Of course, you must be able to do it. And lastly, for you as an investor, it needs to be able to give you returns. It must be economically viable. My last proposal of a key takeaway is that investors transform obstacles into profitable ventures. You need to look at those challenges highlighted and see the opportunity in them. There are enough people within the sector to be able to hold your hand and walk you through. In conclusion, land access is easier with the right partners and strategy frameworks. As successful, I cannot overemphasize that successful investors find opportunities in challenges. And finally, I'll leave you with this that shows 3 documents or papers we prepared. One is an atlas of all our natural resources. It's available on our website. You can natural resources. The other one is effects of land fragmentation. Effects of land fragmentation on land use and food security. I mentioned about fragmentation, and there is something about Nyamira. And the last one is environmental land use effects from mining and quarrying. And there is quite a bit of mining within this region, particularly in areas of Migori and Homa Bay. Thank you very much.
Makofi. Thank you very much, Commissioner Reginald Okumu. I learned a lot from that presentation, a very rich presentation. Thank you for the guidance. Now, before we allow, you saw me in very critical, very serious negotiations with Hon CS, because she's quite busy, as you would imagine. But yes, we prevailed, and she will take a question or two from the audience before proceeding to the next agenda. So feel free, raise your hand. They'll bring the microphone to you. and field whichever question. This is a unique opportunity to field that question on issues around investment, challenges, barriers in the Lake region, and what our government is doing to resolve this. Thank you, lady. Introduce yourself, name, the microphone is coming to you, and short and precise. Thank you.
Clarification. Can I ask, I had a question for Gosia.
Could you give privilege
okay.
on CS's?
Okay. Thank
yeah,
you.
if you don't mind. There's a question.
Morning, colleagues, and morning, Waziri. My name is Professor Ogechi, the Vice Chancellor at Kisii University. Thank you for your presentation, and particularly when you are talking about the housing project. There are very many examples of the projects that are running. You even mentioned institutional housing. Kisii is one of the universities that indeed expressed interest in the institutional housing. Over 1 year ago, or early last year, we had requested for 10,000. We had an advert for 2,552. To the best of my knowledge, it's as though institutional housing has not taken off. These others are doing very well, except the one near my home. Nyariwari Masawa is still in the Nyanza region. I know the president did break the ground, but they have not started, but I know something will happen. Is there hope for this institutional housing? And I want to tell you, that is the lowest lying fruit, because like Kisii, we have active 20,000 student population with 7,000 first years. They are not 16,000 as you hear all over. 7,172. We only house 500. Is there hope over that? Number two, it's Nyanza rising towards economic transformation. A lot of engineering that you are talking about. None of the 5 public funded universities in Nyanza and the 2 private universities in Nyanza has an engineering program. Forget about computing and the like. We know there is a lot of investment when it comes to engineering. Just next to Kisii University, there is an institute called Kenya Building Highways Training Institute under your ministry. You know, when we are talking about doing all these things, we look forward to collaborations and partnerships. Should we, and we have been thinking about it, approach your ministry, that we work together and use the facilities at the KBIT, the Kenya Building, Highways and Training Institute, which are underutilized, very good facilities. Will you be ready to assist us, that your ministry and the Ministry of Education work together so that we are able to get at least an engineering school for Nyanza region, and therefore all these things will move up? Thank you.
Sorry, you said, I hope this is working. Yes, sorry, remind me your name. Ogechi, thank you very much for your question. One, is there a possibility, let me start with the last one, a possibility of partnering with my ministry in terms of training and education? And you also, followed by that, you say that in Nyanza, 5 universities that are existing, plus 2 private ones, we do not have any engineering courses. I think to an extent that is a failure by the institutions, by the universities. I am not aware what is the restriction, because maybe that, and I'm sure you are best placed to know the processes of ensuring that you onboard critical courses that obviously will take care of that. And I personally would support a cabinet memo of that nature by your minister, our Minister for Education. Maybe that should be presented to him, and definitely he would get support from the cabinet. Therefore, because that's actually sad that we don't have. Would I be willing to partner? Yes, I would. Let's have a proposal addressed to the ministry, to the minister, and copy it to the principal secretary. Then we look at it. In it, give us your project proposal, how you think it can even fund itself. Some of the challenges we are facing is budget constraints. But because we have facilities that already exist, we should maybe take that as an opportunity. And of course, the willingness of the university. Houses, that is hostels for your university. I know that you are talking of 2.5 for the first phase. We went a bit slow because we were looking at the designs so that we can have a standard design, say for maybe a bit of few adaptations sometimes or changes because of the land available. So I'm sure you are also in the pipeline, and I will look through and see whether we have dropped you or where you are. You know, the demand is very high, as you can imagine, but I take your concern, and I will look at it. And obviously, the delay everywhere was because of the approval of the designs. Thank you. Then I think that was it. Okay, excellent. So maybe I can just take 2 more. Only I want to attend the plenary, the main plenary. There is one. If you can help, 1, 2, 3. That's it, yeah? 1, 2, 3.
Could we take the microphone over there to that gentleman at the extreme
1,
left?
2, and 3, yes. 2 ladies and the gentleman.
Thank you, Waziri. My name is Felix Wasieba from Kenya Seed. Waziri, the cost of land in this country is on speculation. The cost of land in this country is determined by speculation. A resort like this comes here, and tomorrow the cost of land is 10 million. You look at that and you can't understand the parameters that makes that land to be extremely expensive. The people in this room are really, really working hard. One of the things that they're looking forward is having a good home for their families. But land, the cost of land determines everything to that person. What policies are we going to put in place in your ministry? Your ministry is going to put in place to protect Kenyans from these agents and middlemen who speculate land just based on infrastructural projects or even suspicion that an infrastructure project will take place in this place? Thank you.
Yes, could we get the second question from the lady here?
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Jocelyn Omondi. I'm a partner at JRO Advocates LLP. So mine is just to ask, how ready are we in terms of getting the social license from the community? I heard the commissioner had mentioned that getting the approval from the community is actually a very, very huge thing. So how ready are we in terms of getting solutions in terms of that particular issue of getting the social license? Because we do want the development to continue, but that is going to be a very, very strong issue which I think should be looked into during the project life cycle. Thank you.
And the last one from this side.
Thank you so much. My name is Victoria Adwet. I'm part of a group known as Kisumu Youth Wash Parliament, so we are water aligned. And I wanted to ask a question on, you find that in most cases when we are doing our surveys, you find that people have encroached into riparian areas, and you find that they have title deeds. So as much as we are advocating for them to move away from the water resources, they actually have actual deeds to support this. So how are you enforcing that our water resources are protected? And secondly, you talked about the units that are being put in place. How do you ensure that there is synergy with other departments like water? Because a town like this, already we are having a big issue when it comes to availability of water because of the pollution on the lake, and we are mostly depending on water from River Kibos. So how do you ensure that With these units coming up, it will lead to a population growth, definitely. And how do we bring about that synergy with the other departments to ensure that water is available? Thank you.
Question by Victoria. How do we ensure that whatever we are doing is linked to the other maybe agencies and departments' functions, especially those that are providing key facilities to our affordable housing? I think, Victoria, we are providing, we are providing housing for people already existing within that community or within that space, living in very deplorable or houses or spaces, which have sometimes no facilities. They have no, there is no electricity, there is no sanitation. There is no way we would, that helps us to build and look at the infrastructure available, because the kind of housing we are providing must have the critical facilities: water, electricity, connectivity, including fiber, ensuring that you can have your Wi-Fi there. A school nearby, either we expand the school, we build a dispensary. So yes, water, we cannot do a house and then live without water. So however, we have to use and utilize the available water resource. In a few areas, if we assess and find that the resource is not sufficient, then what we do is we provide in the short term a borehole. I know a few projects have to be provided with a borehole so that then we can increase the amount of water available. Overall, of course, in our planning as counties and then as government, we need to ensure that water is available to everybody. On the question of Jocelyn, your question on social approval will be answered by Commissioner Okumu. I know he knows how to go about it, but the key is public participation, robust public participation, without sneaking or having shortcuts in doing that. He could add into that. Land costing, we are looking at, as a ministry, at ensuring that we provide valuation indexes for specific areas, for different areas, that will give a guidance. And that guidance obviously is, because if it is private land, there is nothing one can do. You can only give a guidance so that people make decisions, and you cannot force somebody. In land transactions, it's willing buyer, willing seller. But the government can participate by guiding the general public, any investors and interested people, in choosing where to invest, because sometimes we are crowding in smaller places where land is too expensive, while we can actually move further into the country and get available land that is more friendly. And I agree with you, the land speculators are a problem. But what do you do with them? One of the ways we can look at, and I think the commissioners have recommended that we don't allow fragmentation of land. We should work on that and restrict maybe the size, the smallest sizes, because some of these areas where we are taking homes, and including encouraging people to actually live in urban areas and go up instead of, go vertical instead of parallel, Horizontal huku chini. Tuondoke chini, because the more you go down, the more you now encroach onto land meant for agriculture. Obviously, the government, in terms of planning and giving guidelines and regulation, has not been very good in terms of ensuring that we don't allow agricultural land. The counties have a big role to play, and individual counties should actually take planning work very seriously. And as I speak, I'm speaking that because I know whatever plans are done at the county level, sometimes there are very serious gaps that don't speak to good planning, and eventually, you know, they have to bring to me for approval. And when you look at the kind of approvals they are giving, public utility has not been thought out, because maybe they have provided 1 acre or 2 acres for a primary school for a plan that is and then you take over the whole land, which then means expansion of that school in the next 10, 20 years has not been thought out. So people must also put their counties and be very careful at what governance systems they are putting in place. Who is the leader of the county? Who is the executive governor in that county? And then put pressure to the county assemblies so that they don't approve, because no plan will be approved before going to the counties. So what am I saying? I think we all need to take our place and space, and decision making should involve the public. So therefore, we should reduce approvals for agricultural land, especially where it is being fragmented or subdivided for purposes of settlement, because we still have enough land into in the towns. You'd rather even talk of expanding the town instead of now moving from here and going 50 kilometers and then do 1, 2, 3, 4 subdivision, taking pure agricultural land and subdividing into small parcels for housing purposes. That is a tendency or a trend that is there, and we will try to address it in the national land policy that is on our desk for public participation. Let me recognize the presence of the Principal Secretary Public Works, Joel Adumanyong. Wapi makofi. You guys, muko a bit wachoyo, but maybe it's because you are looking forward to a lot of engagement. And with him is Maurice Akech. Wengine ni watu wa area hii when they say they are going home. Akech, he's the Chief Executive Officer, CEO of NCA. Wale watu wanakujanga na karamu ya X. And then sometimes you are very unhappy when they pull down your building because of encroaching. Somebody spoke about encroaching the water areas, you know, the riparians, the wet areas. That's my last question. That, for me to succeed, I have to work closely with the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, because they are in charge, and then Ministry of Water, because it's a shared mandate, so that for me, it's maybe they should be asking me, why are your registrars allowing titling up to the river? Where should the titling reach in terms of beacons, establishment of boundaries? Should we leave it open, or we should now agree that there must be the last point where the beacon should stop, leaving clear wayleaf or wet area for the rivers? It's a lot of work. Even Kenyans also, there should be, you know, I think the Environment Ministry, with the new program of planting 15 billion trees, they should really think through about what trees to plant along the wet areas, and maybe severe campaign, because we are also, as Kenyans, now farming up to the river. Not, you know, up to the river. You'll find that sweet potatoes are more or less at the river bench, you know, bank. So I guess that also goes to the values that we have, and possibly the awareness as to the danger that we are causing in terms of erosion. Thank you very much. Maybe then I was seeking to be allowed to leave so that I can attend the plenary. Thank you very much. It has been a good meeting for me.
Makofi tena. Thank you very much, Hans. Yes.
So maybe then any PS Muko Saramba? Ama he want yeah, sorry. The national chairperson, Mercy is the chairperson of NCA, the new chairperson of NCA for the next 3 years. She's a lawyer, huyu ni engineer, huyu ni wakili. She's a lawyer by profession, so that space is now available for women also. So a big clap for Mercy. Maybe now we are done. Thank you for me.
Thank you very, very much. Makofi tena wakati waziri anapotoka.
Because they are the ones who helped me put that presentation. Mr. President, good morning. Madam President, good morning.
I would request you to stay behind. There were questions for Commissioner Reginald. Could we take the microphone to that lady? Yes, thank you very much. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Belmi Kipruto, CEO of Ustawi Organic Farms, where we convert organic waste using insect technology and before we dispose. So I'd like to know your thoughts on this and if you're open for partnerships and further engagement. Thank you.
A Goyodala, or everybody is looking for having his own gate, every young man. And that has been a cultural practice that is historical. But if it is working against the modern desirable dynamics of economic development, I think it should be addressed. In any case, the Constitution, I think, had already provided for something like that. And what has not happened, I think, is legislation at both the county levels and the national level. So is there any move your commission is taking to ensure that land is preserved for production in Nyanza instead of going by the rate it is being consumed with Goyodala, or simply put in English, settlements? Thank you.
So the last two before we move on to our panelists now.
Thank you so much. My name is Evans Basweti. I work for Kisii University. I'm a professor of agronomy from Kisii University. My question is to Gosia. You talked about Kenya having, or CEE having opportunities for us to export about 5 million worth of food. And I was wondering, where are we in this country in terms of export and more specifically in Nyanza? The other question I have is about the issue of carbon credit, agroforestry trees. Kisii University is a university that is covering, I think, many counties. And we have expertise who can be involved in this issue of carbon credit. So maybe we can have further discussion to see how we are going to work together and see how we are going to help our people. Thank you so much.
The very last one. In the meantime, I would invite QS Mutinda, probably come to the fore.
Thank you so much. My name is Joseph Langat. I'm also from Kisii University. Just to add to what Professor has just said, we have a proposal. We have a 165-acre farm for Kisii University. And we have made a proposal looking for partners to develop a net zero hub. So probably I'm proposing we can have your contact. Then from there we can see how we can work together. Thank you so much.
Good. So yes, you see there are quite a number. You're not alone. They met the questions. Yeah. Over to you, Gosia, first. Sound, please. Sound, please. You can use the next one or the main one, probably.
He's doing thumbs up. Is this working now? Yes, wonderful. Indeed, I'm not alone, and this is really making my heart warm and excited about the future. And thank you for all the questions and your interest in engaging with us. So first of all, I'll answer the question on the waste. And first of all, thank you so much for the invitation. I love visiting businesses and seeing how they're being run. I think that's exactly what is needed when we build new partnerships between business leaders. And I keep saying this to our wonderful governments on both sides, that bringing entrepreneurs into one country and putting them into a conference room will definitely not yield the business deals that we need. We need to visit each other, we need to spend time together and understand how our businesses are run to build those partnerships. And one thing I've not mentioned is that cultures in CE and in this part of the world are very similar. We like to feed people. We like to make sure that we have good time together. So I can promise you that when businesses from CE countries visit you, they will feel like at home and vice versa. So very much thank you for your invitation and very happy to go and visit your plant. When it comes to scaling up, my suggestion would be to be very clear about what is it that you need help with. Is it that you need help with understanding on how to develop manufacturing or specific engineering skills? And I do have to say that in CE countries we are known for engineers and for people who develop solutions, and they will be a lot more affordable to you than looking for solutions in Western Europe or outside. So I think if that's something you need, I believe there are partnerships available to you that would match your budgets a lot closely, or new partnerships that would align. The other thing to mention is that most of the CE countries are, of course, members of the European Union, and therefore you can benefit from what we're calling a new partnership of European Union and Africa. A lot of new policies are being created right now. Poland is currently the president of the European Union, so that kind of rotates between the countries. So currently it's within Poland. The next country will be Denmark as well. So it's worth thinking about what would you like from those regions and how can we bring it together and then influence the future policies on scaling up and looking for investors. Those countries have committed to net zero and a lot of work within waste management. There are a number of companies that specialize in that are now globally known, so I think we can definitely have a conversation. And thank you for your question. I look forward to spending some time together with you. Moving on to the next question. Where are we in terms of export of food to CE countries? Well, we're not where we should be. that's for sure. The opportunity is huge. However, you know, with food trade, that requires a lot of government work and relationships, and I know those are being developed. We've just had a Czech Republic, Kenya forum just happening yesterday in Nairobi. We've also seen Polish president visit Kenya 2 years ago and establish new deals when it comes to agriculture. We've seen the same happening with Hungary. So those diplomatic ties are moving, but we do need food production companies in Kenya to think about CE countries as destination. There is need for that. There is interest in different type of foods as well. Those markets are interested now. One very interesting fact is every time I have to apply for my visa to come here, and believe it or not, 15 years in, I still have to apply for my visa for ETA. Now the system gives you the top countries that apply to visit Kenya, and one of them is Poland. So the influx of interest and tourism in the country is huge, and therefore what people take back with them, what they want to see back in their countries from here also grows. But definitely a lot more can be done on food production area within that. It's worth doing market research, of course, and this is something we can definitely help with. And the quality standards, I know you would expect, is the same as for the European Union. So if you're already exporting to Germany or Spain, you are meeting the standards for CE countries, which is very helpful. Then there was a question about carbon credits. I have to say I'm not necessarily an expert in this area, so won't be able to provide much information. But of course, as any other part of the world right now, carbon credits are a big thing, and all of the companies that want to be part of Sustainable Development Goals and UN Global Compact are committing to engage with carbon credits and look at opportunities to invest. So that would also apply to CEE countries. And the mega farm proposal, final one. I think it's really important that you think about CE regions. When we look at countries like Romania or Czech Republic, they have quite high investments in innovation. They want to be known as the innovation countries of CE region. Then you have Estonia as well, really ramping up the area. So worth thinking about partners. And again, my main message is always will be about this, that the delivery cost is very different to what you're used to seeing when we're looking at Western countries, Western part of Europe. I think that's everything. Asante sana.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner Okumu.
Thank you very much. Is it on? It's on? Okay. Thank you very much. Maybe, Prof, just remind me your name. Sorry, I didn't. Yes? Joseph Kwaka. I think I got 3 questions, which I will try and tackle. Let me start with what was asked much earlier. I'll deal with Mr. Kwaka's question last. There's a question about social license. The CS actually alluded to the answer, which is inbuilt in public participation. So if you're able to follow the process of law in terms of getting your projects approved, in it there is inbuilt public participation. Make sure you're able to engage the public fully. And this is all shortcuts. Don't identify 2 or 3 people, put them in a room, and then you say that is community has accepted. Just do wide advertisement, let communities come, people come, talk to them, explain to them your project, the benefits they're likely to have, and make sure they're able to work with you through this project. So make sure there's proper public participation in terms of engaging the community, explaining the benefits, and hearing their thoughts on how best they'll be able to benefit from this. The Constitution provides that communities must benefit from investments in land. It's no longer a CSR issue. And even as the Commission, we advise investors, it has to be a meaningful engagement with the community and agreeing with them what benefits they are going to have. It is their priorities. that they need to agree with you. And also we are pushing forward that investors need to also have their own MOU or an agreement with the community in terms of how they need to roll out this. Social licensing, therefore, just social acceptance. Make sure a project is. A lot of investors would maybe visit the offices, waive permits, whether it is NEMA, it is a county government, and with that, you're going to have the problems you're talking about. So make sure you really engage the community. I think they're very receptive. They would listen to you. Engage them as meaningful as you can. You must have social acceptance with your host community. You need to talk to them. And I think for the universities, you can recall the issues around Moi University, what the students and the communities were always having. Just issues around lack of social acceptance or no social license for the institution to exist where it is. So that's something we need to do. Make sure there is actually participation and the communities welcome the project. The next question I want to deal with is what was called encroachment. And here I would like to maybe distinguish between the land between the lowest watermark and the highest watermark and the riparian reserve. There is land between the lowest watermark and the highest watermark. That is what is public land. The land between the highest watermark. So when you're dealing with the highest watermark, so when you're dealing with tidal rivers, lakes, and oceans, oceans are basically tidal. Lakes are, some rivers are, some aren't. So there's a time when you have low tide, the water recedes to its lowest point, and there are times when the tide comes back, it rises to its highest point. So that's between the lowest and the highest. That is public land. The riparian reserve is measured from the highest point, and it is defined by law. It depends. It can be 6 meters, it can be 30 meters, and it depends on the legislation. If it's an agricultural land, the Agriculture Act then would take precedence. People say it is there's confusion between the laws, and I think I'm just saying you need to be able to understand which. If you're in an urban area, then the Planning Act is what will tell you where your riparian reserve is. In some cases, it can even be 0. You can actually be allowed to build all the way to the highest watermark. So the question of whether you can or cannot have a title on your riparian reserve, I'm saying you can. The only thing you have is a restriction on what you can or cannot do on the riparian reserve. I know this confusion has brought about demolitions. Sometimes government agencies want to come and survey and mark out and remove your riparian land. Riparian land is not necessarily public. It can be community, it can be private. And for those of us who come from this region, we know that our parcels of land extend all the way to the lake. They do extend all the way to the lake. The day they will map Lake Victoria and identify its lowest and highest watermark, then we can start defining where the public land starts. Unfortunately, that has not been done. The only lake where you can actually say they marked its boundary through a legal notice is Lake Naivasha. So there's a contour that was gazetted sometimes in the 30s, and that contour marks the riparian. So we need to be careful in terms when we talk about encroachment and distinguish between the highest and the lowest watermark, which is public land, and the riparian, which can be public, can be private, and can be community. For you to know whether you're actually encroaching or whether you're using the wrong use on the riparian reserve, please look at the applicable law. The other question was on which was asked on our traditional practices of how households break down to form smaller ones and so on, to Goyo Dala. And I think I can also look at this in terms of its effect, which is to fragment our land. I talked about that as one of the issues investors are likely to face in this region. One is that it's an historical issue. You all recall we went through a process of adjudication and consolidation. And during that time, our ancestral lands or cultural lands within this region was technically converted to private land. And you found that when people were identifying where their parcels were based on use, some of your parcels were maybe isolated, There was a program on consolidation, which a lot of the families resisted. A lot of the families resisted. So we are basically practicing culture on private land. So it's very difficult to control, where we are all living on a piece of land we consider to be ancestral and therefore cultural, but the title is actually private. It's freehold. And also, if you look at the traditional communities, we never really had these boundaries. If you are to go your Dala, you would not necessarily be going Dala in your father's land because it was communal land. So the land was vast. If you look at maybe the Luo community, all these three counties were essentially, technically, one communal land, and the clans were big. You'd be able to be shown where to stay. But now that one is non-existent. We all have to live within the small parcels of land that we have. Then, of course, the economic situation. I would like to say there are solutions. In my slide, I proposed we can actually try to do some consolidation and convince families to live in much more closer what we consider to be urban communities. If you look at the older settlement scheme plans, the way settlements were planned was, if you're entitled to 20 acres, they would give you 1 acre in what they would call to be an urban area, where you can put up your house and live, and the 19 acres would be somewhere else, where you can actually go and farm. But unfortunately, with time, we also sold our urban plots and moved now to the farm. That's why we're subdividing. But I would like to say that the solution is actually consolidation. As investors, do not be frustrated because the land has been fragmented, and therefore it's not enough for you. Encourage the community to form cooperatives, to move into much closer units, to release the rest of the land, for you to be able to do whatever it is that needs to be done. So that's something that we can do. But also it requires the community structures in terms of elders and the rest to convince the community that we need to do away with some of these traditions. I know there's a breakdown in our cultural systems, but where they still are and they're strong, maybe there was this, you sit down and then just communicate and say, maybe this culture of Tugoyo Dala is no longer tenable. We need to do something else. Otherwise, the law supports issues around consolidation and the rest. But the cultural aspects, those ones are social in nature. They require a very different approach, not a legal one. Because even if you have a law and we have zoning regulations, you'd find even, for instance, that in this area there would be the zoning would provide you cannot go beyond, say, 2.5 acres. But that is the law. Informally, if your son is of age and he needs to move out, you cannot stop them. So there'll be an informal subdivision. On paper, you have your 2.5 acres, but on the ground, that's not the case. So I think this is something that requires a social-cultural approach for it to be resolved. Thank you very much.
I thank today's presenters, and again, the way they have handled your questions, and I thank you, my audience, for the proactiveness that you've been giving me so far. We have our panelists that have just joined us. So as I say thank you to my presenters, I would still request you to stay behind because they are here for you. And you better make the best use of the 10 minutes each that they are allocated. So I will release you, Commissioner, I will release you, Madam, and thank you very much for your time and your contribution. So with me here is CPA Philip Kakai, who is the chairman ISPAC. For those who do not know it in full, that's the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya. And I'm also here with Quantity Surveyor Mutinda, QS Mutinda Mutuku, who is the president of the Institute of Quantity Surveyors of Kenya. So they are here really to help support the question of today with specific relevance, how their fields interact with the addressing challenges of investment within the lake region. So I will start with Philip and manage my time. You may use your micro. If we can confine it to less than 10 minutes, the better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Collins, and thank you for the introduction. And I keep time because my work involves counting 1 + 1, which becomes 2. Sometimes people say it's 11, but mainly it's 2. My name is CPA Philip Kakai, the chairman of ISPAC, the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya. I'm happy, very happy to be in Kisumu, Dala. We have 9 branches, and Kisumu happens to host the physical branch for NYANZA region, specifically the counties that are in this region. I was requested to talk about key barriers and solutions in my particular field. ISPAC regulates and develops the accounting profession in Kenya, and the members of the institute are over 40,000 as we speak now, registered. Of course, we do quite a number of things, but we particularly are involved with the cabinet secretary in charge of treasury, the budget process in parliament, and legislative affairs that relate to financial management. So one of the key barriers, I'll be quick. Collins, I speak to a big audience. This is really small, but this is really, really important. One is of the key barriers to investment in most of the counties, and particularly in the country, is the high cost of production. And of course, we have things to do with power, labor, and of course, inputs. And the solution to this mainly is policy changes. Whether we have to continue using the PPP arrangements we have, relying on petroleum as a source of power, or move to other sources of power. But of course, we have a labor issue. It is said that Kenya is a bit expensive in its labor issues because we have strong unions, we have strong labor organizations that require support. The other key and very important one is the high comparative tax and levies. And we're talking of counties. Of course, the country has a higher tax regime than the neighboring countries. We have Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya here in the ESC, including Rwanda. Of course, VAT is higher in Tanzania at 20%. We have 16%. But what makes us a bit expensive is the levies that we have. And I wouldn't want to mention so many. So you'll find that most of the investors would tend to move to countries that are a bit lower in tax regime and the way we handle our tax matters. The other important one, number 3, is unpredictable tax environment. And the Institute, we've been really keen on this by pushing the national government to develop, which we have. Now it's a document under the National Treasury, the National Tax Policy, because as it is so unpredictable. You do not know the tax laws and regimes and how they will change every moment. So long-term investors, whether in the region, whether in the counties, find it a little bit hard. And this goes further to the counties. We are in the NYANZA investment conference, but you'll find that as you move from here, Kisumu to Migori, you have a levy for Migori, and I happen to have a transport business. So as you land in Kisumu, transporting your goods to Homa Bay, you are charged. Then you go to Migori, you are charged. You are required to have a permit. So it becomes so difficult to do business because of this unpredictable tax and levies. Particularly for counties, it's the levies. Every county has to collect money, but then in the process, you just lose it out because of those many issues. The fourth item is multiplicity in regulation. You'll find the national government is regulating certain entities, the county government is regulating the same entities, and of course charges are there. So you'll find that as time goes by, it becomes so difficult to do that. And the best thing is to harmonize, like we are doing the NYANZA regional investment. The governors of this region and other regions can agree on a way of handling some of these issues. Of course, the cost of credit has become a very, very important issue in the country, especially the fact that we are not able to get cheaper loans, so it affects investment in a big way. The cost of credit has become a little bit higher. Of course, as we speak, the central bank has lowered its CBR rate. Now it's 10.275, which is a little bit okay, but not yet okay, because we, as the institute, we've been pushing for a single digit, because the banks also have a way of not responding as quickly as possible. So if the cost of credit would be handled, and it is being handled, then investment for SMEs and the rest of the businesses would be quite good. The other key issue is the on-source revenue at the county level and the budgeting process for on-source revenue. This has become a big problem because it has become a balancing figure in the budgets for county governments, which is really, really hurting the economy in terms of when they do not meet the on-source revenue and the performance of the on-source revenue, it leads to pending bills. And the county governments across the nation, and particularly here in NYANZA, you'll find that the small and medium, actually they are called medium, small enterprises are suffering. They can't do business with county governments. Then the environment is that of auctioneers running around for that. Very important is corruption. It just discourages investors from getting into the country, and particularly counties. We've been following up. Yesterday there was an arrest of a governor. And it sends away investors, that the counties are now the centers of corruption. So you cannot be so sure that you're going to do business with them and get the right environment. Otherwise, you'll be asked to to give mobilization fee before you even do anything. Very, 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 very wrong. Revenue leakage is another key issue related to taxes, as I mentioned. The collected revenue, again, gets to leak through, of course, corruption and other means. But more importantly, at a national level, county level, and everybody in this conference, we know what we call the political risk. This is a big one. I happen to have some Luo friends, and they say that, Collins, you'll help me how they put it. They say, I think I'll put it in Kiswahili, they say, pesa haipendi kelele. There's something in Luo that puts across so well. So any political unrest...
Pesa ukudua koko.
Yeah?
Pesa ukudua koko.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so any political unrest, social unrest of any nature, it just sends away investors, whether small investors in Nyalenda or whatever place. You'll find that it is it affects the entire ecosystem, and it would be very, very important that we are able to remain calm even in circumstances where we have our right in the Constitution. But lastly is the overall Kenya and the counties do not operate as individuals. We are in a global world. You've seen what we are calling the Trump effect. I wouldn't go to issues to do with USAID, but the most important for us in the accounting and economic sector is we are really looking at the ACOA, Africa Growth Opportunity Act. We are really considering that if that particular act that gives African countries an opportunity to export at favorable terms, especially the textile products, which are coming all the way from the counties, that ACOA Act, we are really, really keen on it. Of course, we have other Trump effect issues, but that particular one on investment, export, especially from the county level where we have such as textile like in Kisumu, is an issue of concern. Very last, manufacturing. We had, and many, many years, when I was a small boy, we came to Kikomi textile. We came to quite a number of industries here. The Kenya breweries of those days had a big brewer here. I think East Africa Breweries has put up another plant, but it's a big court matter. I know of that. So we have to really encourage investment in the manufacturing sector, because through it, then there is job creation, is more taxes. The farmers in the region here in Kisumu and the rest of the counties would benefit from that. The local informal businesses would also grow. So manufacturing sector, if we have to really grow it all the way connected to export, would really be important. Mining is my last point. Counties and the national government have to put in very, very elaborate measures to ensure that the mining sector in the counties is really, really producing the right income. For example, we have, I'm sure we have some mines in Migori. I don't know, Homa Bay, in the highlands, across the next county here is Kakamega, isn't it? We have mining of gold and so many. But we seem to have neglected that particular sector. So if the counties of Nyanza and the rest of the country can have a better policy to tap into that, bring in investors, that would really, really be important. But my last bit would be to just thank the organizers of this particular conference, and many conferences I've attended. It is important to review and implement some of the discussions so that it doesn't become a talk show. Every year we are here and no implementation. Of course, we have to have buy-in from the political class, the county governments, the MPs, and the rest of the people, the MCAs, for some of these things to be fully implemented at policy level and at legislative level. So thank you very much. I remain available. Thank you.
CPA, thank you so much. Very valuable. I wish we had a greater audience, because what he has spoken about was actually speaking to my heart, but sometimes the fewer you are, the better you absorb it. You're the chosen few. Thank you. So to QS Mutinda, please.
Thank you, Collins. Yes, we have a much smaller audience that has been able to stay on, and we thank you for your patience, for being able to stay on so that we can finish together. I know there is the urge to move to the plenary. We'll all move there eventually, but I thank you for staying on. I will make it very, very brief so that we are able to move together and not be left too much behind. Yes, as you've heard, my name is QS Mutinda Mutuku. I am a quant surveyor by profession. I practice quantity surveying. And for those who do not know quant surveying, in other jurisdictions it's called cost engineering. It's a whole discipline about the cost of construction and cost of infrastructure. It's sometimes the line between whether we will make a project succeed or not, because when you use a quantity surveyor and manage your resources, that ensures that you're able to do your project to the extent that you expected and to the quality that you expected. There is a notion that not using a quantity surveyor or just other professions, that you're saving money. But it is, I'll tell you, it is full handy to put out your millions and avoid spending a small fraction to protect the millions. So you lose the millions trying to protect a very small part. I also serve as a director of a National Construction Authority. And if I can tell that with what I've just said, I have seen people's buildings crumble like cake. Yeah? Because all you are doing, you are running away from consultants, from civil engineers, from architects, from quantity surveyors. And you expose your hard-earned cash. And in the end, they either either demolished or comes down, leaves you with liabilities because people have died, livelihoods have been lost, unnecessarily. So I am a proponent of using a consultant. I am a quantity surveyor. I am not a doctor. I will not say I want to treat you. So don't treat yourself. Don't assume you're a quantity surveyor because, or you get a fundi who can count bricks for you and think that you're saving. So let's, as much as possible, be a country that embraces professionalism. Yeah? And that is how developed world is. And that's where we aspire to be. Just to tie in one of the two things that were spoken into before, and I did catch a Luo phrase, Goyodala, which I hope I don't forget so that I can go and brag in Nairobi to my Luo friends that I have learned the Luo. And I want to tie that in with the issue of the senseless subdivision of land. And there was a question that was asked about the speculation and transactions that are in land. What we've become is a country that we speculate. And indeed, you realize maybe in a few days, then the land around here either has gone up or will still continue to go up because of this investment. And then the thing that we do is that we go ahead and subdivide it into very small portions. And we keep doing that. We've done that in the whole of Kajiado. We are now on to Machakos. Kiambu, the coffee farms are done. It's concrete jungles. There is that, which is the commercial side of it, driving that kind of subdivision. And then there's the cultural. Yeah? The cultural where I am born in this boma. I'm born here. We are several of us, which is where Goyodala comes from. And where I come from the southeastern Kenya. There's a term for it from central Kenya. We do the same. It's cultural. You're born here. Your parents are built here. You subdivide the land. And in the end, you end up with very small portions that cannot sustain agriculture. Going forward, and where we are seeing things going, the next wars in the world will be fought around food production and being able to feed ourselves as much as other resources like water. So as we continue to subdivide either on cultural grounds or for speculation and commercial purposes, then we continue to hurt ourselves because we continue to reduce and are not able to do sustainable food production. That is in a way linked to the government's project on affordable housing. Yes, we have fought that project. A lot we've fought it, but it's time as Kenyans also, we start doing what is called positive criticism. In this sense, the government, and a list of projects was given by the CS, quite a number, and I counted about 13 projects in this region, the Greater NYANZA, where they are doing the affordable housing. And the affordable housing goes into various levels. Yes, the fight is a lot more on the levy. And yes, maybe there may be justifications on that. But we ought to look at the flip side. What could be the benefit? The benefit could actually come to cure in what we are talking about here. The small subdivision of land, the Goyodala, whatever we call it in Ukambani. So that we, as she spoke, from Poland and from the CEE countries, is you go to those countries and you find there is tracts and tracts of land, farming land, and then there's an urban center where people live. We will need this mind shift, yeah? Sort of we need to change our mindsets. And I can see it coming because the Gen Zs and the generation below that, the Gen Alphas, a lot of them want nothing to do with ancestral land. So we need to start embrace that concept of urbanization, which is inevitably is coming with the county governments, and even the government now doing these projects on affordable housing in many of our places, so that people begin to move into these areas and begin to amalgamate the land that they had to land that can sustainably be used for agriculture and food production. So I think that for me is the call to us all to start moving towards a shift, a mental shift, that we stop this culture where I came from this homestead, I must get a piece of land in this homestead, I must come and build on this homestead, and therefore all I do is just build, and then there's hardly any land left for me to produce any food. So that for me is our challenge for me, for us this morning, going into afternoon, that we start shifting our minds, and even the conversation and the narrative where we sit, that we move away from what we believe culturally, that you have to go home and build a home. And we have these things about against vertical movement. Why go live in a flat when you can be? You go to the most of European countries and developed world, they all live in urban centers, and they've left the land for agriculture, free for agriculture. I think that for us, and I don't know where we will begin, maybe at the universities, at schools, to start to sensitize people that a lot of these practices are not sustainable in this day and age. And with that, I want to thank you for listening to me, and I hope we have a more fruitful conference going forward. Thank you.
Makofi tena. I'm now fully convinced that you are the chosen few. For those who are not here, I won't say anything. The audiovisual is capturing. To QS Mutinda, you've even spoken again to my heart, because some of these are challenges that we are facing. This resort, if you ever try to buy a piece of land around this place, maybe you need to take a loan. And some of those challenges that they have thrown to us, the Gen Zs, those are realities of Kenya right now. You are investing in that rural area, that big farm you're putting in place, yet you're not talking to these people at all, at all, at all. So questions, more questions than answers, and we take these questions back to wherever we are, and let's contribute in finding solutions to some of these challenges that we've had this morning. So I thank you very much, and I'll give you this privilege of coming to the podium and so that we can collectively make a photograph with these people who are otherwise very rare to get. So most welcome. Join me here, cameraman, if you could come over and take us a group photo. Thank you very much. And with that, the session is formally closed. Thank you.